Hello and welcome to the Guarneri podcast. This is episode 20. Can you believe it's already been 20 episodes now? Like I can't believe it went so fast. So today, instead of giving you another one of my favorite Celtic practices, gonna take a little side excursion. And this excursion is courtesy of a man named Jason Uarty, who is in a writing cohort with me called Right to Freedom, and he kind of tipped me off on what I'm going to discuss today, and I thank him very much for that. So, what I'm going to discuss is something called the Gateway Experience, which, quite honestly, I haven't even started yet, and it's already been an experience. Um, so there was this guy, Robert Monroe, and he is the creator of this. Um, he was fascinated with the concept of sleep learning, where you go to sleep and you learn something while you're sleeping. Along his efforts and testing and whatnot, he somehow stumbled upon something that he claims gave him out of body experiences and and some crazy stuff like that, like altered consciousnesses and whatever else. So we decided to start studying that. In 1962, he formed what's called the Monroe Institute. Um, and their purpose is just to explore the human consciousness. Monroe came up with the idea of what's called hemisync as a platform to get altered states of consciousness without having to take any psychotropic drugs or anything like that. So hemisync, which stands for hemisphere synchronization, or brainwave synchronization, is used to adjust the frequencies of your left and right brain so they're balanced at the same frequency. It's kind of a novel concept. So they do this by having a different frequency sent into the left ear and the right ear. It's called binaural beats, and the frequency sent into each ear is as prescribed to get to whatever state it's needed to get to. All sorts of people claim that they've had altered states of consciousness and out of body experiences. Some said it was just a great meditation program, but didn't give them anything like that. So I have no idea. It all seems kind of crazy to me, but at the same time, it's kind of piques my interest, and it's kind of cool if it did work. So what actually got me to take notice after Jason mentioned it to me when I started researching it was what's called the CIA report. It was released in 2003 under Freedom of Information Act request. Contrary to popular belief, the report was not written by the CIA. It was written for them. The Army, the U.S. Army, is the entity that did all the research and testing and whatnot, and reported its findings to the CIA and other interested entities. So now the report was actually written by the Army, not the CIA, but the CIA used it. Um, Sometimes to good effect, mostly to bad effect. Uh, so this report from the Army to the CIA is extremely dense. I mean, a really dense read. Now, I've kind of read it a couple of times to kind of get the gist, but it definitely needs, a full sit down, detailed reading, multiple readings, maybe. So, I mean, there's crazy stuff in it. Like they're talking about us being holograms and the whole universe being holograms. And I mean, this is coming from the Army. I could believe if it came from the CIA because they're whack jobs, but from the Army, wow. Uh, so, it's definitely interesting. And I don't know if I mentioned it already, but the report was from 1983. So, what really got my attention with the report was page 25 is missing out of the 30-page report. And I guess when people realized this after the CIA released the report under Freedom of Information, they went back to the CIA and said, "Give us the missing page 25." The CIA claimed that they had no idea where it was, if it even existed. They didn't know. So years and years go by until someone, and I don't know who off the top of my head, decided, hey, why don't we check with the Monroe Institute? So they checked with the Monroe Institute, and sure enough, they had the full report, including the missing page 25. Go figure, right? Um, and that page 25 is kind of important to me because I feel like there are statements in there indicating I might be on the right path with my work. Going back in history and looking at ancient practices and traditions may actually be the correct thing. So I want to read a few excerpts from this page 25 to kind of show you what I mean. So at the top of page 25, I'm going to start reading. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. It uses as the figure of the universe of creation, developing, and evolution is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity, whether of Eastern or Western derivation. Whether it's stylized labyrinth, once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life, or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese spiral through the fourfold powers. The ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity to the present. So, they're talking about going back in antiquity to religions and to mystics and whatnot, and saying everything we can learn from this Gateway Project, these people knew. They knew how to do it. So now I'm going to go on to paragraph number 35. It's titled Left Brain Limitations. 20th century physics would seem to be revisiting insights belonging to mankind as far back as written records could take us. The only difference is that the 20th century physics is using a left brain, linear, quantitative style of reasoning to approach the same knowledge which the mystics of old apparently acquired in a holistic, intuitional, right brain style. As a tool in the hands of our left brain culture, Gateway would seem to be a promising method for achieving the intuitive, holistic type of interface with the universal hologram needed. So once again, they're saying over time we've put limitations on what our brains can do. Our left brain is filtering out stuff illogical or whatever else before it gets to the right brain. But they're saying the mystics of old could do it intuitively. They didn't need gateway tapes gateway recordings to listen to. They can just do it naturally, intuitively. So the last paragraph on the page is number 36, and it's called Self-Knowledge. It was axiomatic to the mystic philosophers of old that the first steps in personal maturity could be expressed in the aphorism, know thyself. To them, the education of a man undertook as its primary step, achievement of an introverted focus so that he learned what was within himself before attempting to approach the outside world. They rightly assumed that he could not effectively evaluate and cope with the world until he fully understand his personal psychological balance. The insights being provided by 20th century psychology in this context through the use of various kinds of personality testing seem to be a revalidation of this ancient intuition. But no personality test or series of tests will ever replace the depth and fullness of the perception of self, which can be achieved when the mind alters its state of consciousness sufficiently to perceive the very hologram of itself, which has projected into the universe in its proper context as part of the universal hologram in a totally holistic and intuitional way. Wow. This would seem to be one of the real This would seem to be one of the real promise of the gateway experience from the standpoint of its ability to provide a portal through which, based on months, if not years of practice, the individual may pass in his search to find self, personal effectuality, and truth in the larger sense. So once again, we're going back to antiquity, to knowing thyself as being the key to open up that intuition. And if you listen to one of my earlier podcasts, I forgot what number it was, I was talking about the most important thing I thought was to build the base. And part of that was knowing yourself, knowing who you are. So, in this one missing page that was recovered in 2021, I feel like it's saying I'm getting, I might be on the right track. Maybe, maybe not, but at least this is what smart people supposedly in the U.S. Army thought in 1983. But I just thought this was all interesting and worth a podcast. Um, I'm gonna try this out and see how it works. I'll report back. Obviously, can't hurt. So, a quick reminder, in case you haven't done so already, please head over to MikeGuarneri.com and sign up for my email list. You don't want to miss any of the interesting things and projects I have coming down the pike. If you already have, thank you. Other than that, also the MikeGuarneri.com website, there's a link in the description. So I'll leave it there. Thank you everybody for listening and stay well.